To the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Your host, Thomas Keenan, coming in here with my man, Brent Knott. Dude's awesome. One of my favorite cats on the planet, to be honest with you. And somebody who I get to nerd out with systems and processes at a very high level because he's doing some wild stuff in his companies. And yes, I said companies, not company. It's plural. We're going to dive into that here today, learn a little bit more about what this dude's got going on, some of the stuff he's building for the future. And I'm excited to learn more about it too, because every time I speak to this guy, I feel like I learn just as much as he does, if not more. So welcome, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's cool. Let's dive in a bit here and talk about the main squeeze, right? Because let's just say what it is. You're in the vehicle industry. You're in the automotive space, but your specialty is in the vehicle wrap. We'll call it window tint or paint protection film services.
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about that business a bit. How'd you get involved there? How did it become what it is today? What's the goals? And then we'll talk about what that led to.
Yeah. So 2013, I walked into a shop and race car shop, and the guy had a bunch of race cars that they serviced. And me and my girlfriend at the time, basically were like, we just left our job where we were working out for a guy that wasn't really great. And we wrapped one car. He's like, hey, I got another one for my CFO. And then, hey, we got another one. Kind of find out it was a fire sale. They were paying way more than I was charging. and they were just like, hey, this kid's on sale. Come take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. But I ended up wrapping like 7 cars for him. And then me and him went into business for 7.5 years. Mm. And he pretty much set me up for how to run business, because I was a good worker bee, but I didn't understand business. And I still feel that I don't. Like, there's so many levels to it, but he really like kickstarted me in the right direction of how to think more like a business owner and less like a technician.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big lesson I've had to learn, I think, countless times over the years too.
Yeah.
Right. Because, people hear technician and they automatically think, oh, the guy carrying the toolbox or turning the wrench or with the screwdriver. But the technician role can apply in other areas of your company. So let's fast forward here for a quick second. You've got a software company where you go and you build custom CRMs and workflows for clients. In that business, it's just as easy to get stuck as a technician inside of it. The only difference is you're sitting behind a computer, entering data into a screen, right? But you're still a technician in the role.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, you partnered up with this guy for 7 years. I know you're not now. So what's going on there? What's transpired? How'd this partnership kind of come to a stop?
So, I mean, there's not a dollar on this planet I could do to change his lifestyle. So really the whole partnership was really for me, but go to buy him out. And we exchanged a total of $25 for 70% of the company. And I think we're right at that 1 million in revenue ish. I think we're at like 750 to 1 range. And he basically just told me that there was no reason to get me in debt to buy him out, that I did a good job and I listened to what he said. So let's just do $25 to buy him out, and that this could change my life. That's basically what he told me. And so we transacted, and then now I just handle all of his vehicle wraps needs pro bono. Like, so if he needs a car wrap, I wrap it. If he needs his helmet wrapped, unfortunately, which I hate doing, I just wrapped a helmet for him. So I just take care of him because he took care of me, and he's kind of, he's like a second father to me, basically. And he comes and beats me up. He was here yesterday, beating me up. It's like, here I am. I just did all these things he's told me to do about like creating a potential P&L daily. Like, we're not there yet, but like we have the tools to do this, which was like 8 months ago that he told me this. And he's like, well, now you got to get where you can forecast and this and that. I'm like, he's never like, good job. It's like, all right, next step. So he's still a mentor in my life. I don't know exactly how old he is. I think he's somewhere between 67 and 70 years old. And he's just living life and fussing at me.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool because, most times you hear about ex-partners or someone who went into business bed with somebody else. And 9 times out of 10, it just ends like complete dog shit. Mm-hmm. And here you're given an inverse of that story where you're like, no, it actually ended good. We had a formal transaction of a $25 exchange of money for me to get 70% of him out of the company. I take care of stuff for him now in the future. And that's kind of like, my ongoing payment in return for the favor, or him kind of putting his neck out in the line for me at one point in time. And when he needs something from me, I just kind of take care of it as hey, dude, this is gratis. Like, I'm grateful for the opportunity that you gave me years ago, and I'm still willing to kind of pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Most people don't have that story or the version of it. It's usually
Especially on a first business partnership.
yeah. So with that being said, first business partnership sounds like he's an experienced guy. He's been around the block a few times.
Yes.
Did he come in and say, hey, from the get-go, we're going to set up a partnership agreement and have that kind of stuff in place?
Oh yeah, no, it was, I mean, he even made me reread that partnership agreement like 10 times and quizzed me on it, even though he didn't have to make sure I wasn't signing my life away. Like he was teaching me a lesson in that, like, no, read this, like this is important.
Yeah. And dude, you know this as well, but moving forward and all the stuff you've done since then, now I'm sure you've taken those lessons and applied them to other areas of your life and business. I mean, how many contracts do you probably review in the course of a year? It's gotta be a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it is for me, and it's a good amount. So
yeah,
it makes sense. Makes sense.
So I mean, definitely big life lessons. I mean, the biggest thing he probably did with me, which I'm working back into, because you get complacent because you start to think that you know your stuff. Is the biggest. I almost lost the company on year 5 because I was supposed to do a spreadsheet on every single job, period. Didn't matter. And even if I knew my numbers, I still had to have a spreadsheet specific to that job to where we could pull up the detail and we can compare it to what actually occurred. And he was very strict on the fundamentals of business. I mean, that's his skill set, is just pure fundamentals, no exception, period. Like it doesn't matter. Cash flow, you're not a bank. You can't go into Walmart and get something 2 weeks later or pay 2 weeks later, like little stuff like that. Like he just, me and his son one time high-fived. We got accounts receivable down to like $2,000. And he's like, let's go to Dairy Queen. They're a manufacturer. Like, let's see what their AR is. And I'm like, man, screw you. Can't you just be happy for me? But like, that's just how he runs it, man. And that's why he was so successful though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's lessons my mom used to teach me too, even in my first business. Because here's the harsh reality, right? You got friends, you got family, and I'm just speaking from the truth and from my experience, right? You got friends, you got family, you got people in the neighborhood you knew, maybe you grew up with them. They hear you start a business and they come in and this is the pain point. They think they're supporting you by coming in and asking for a discount because they still see it as, hey, I'm putting money into that person's pocket or into the business. No, you're not. You're not supporting at all. You're coming in there asking for the homeboy hookup, which then puts the business owner in a really weird spot, both from a business perspective, but also from a personal or emotional connection to that other individual, right? And being the person who's been in that spot multiple times, man, it's not cool. And the good side of you is like, and this is not the business side or just not the business side of you. You're like, oh yeah, no problem. Bro, normally I get like $1,000 for this, but just whatever you got $600-700, you give me that and I'll just take care of it. And then you get to doing the job and you're like, holy shit, this is the most complex job I've ever done. Or that's always the job that you wind up breaking a panel on or cracking a window or losing something. And you get done with the job. And that's always the person who's the pickiest customer and the biggest pain in the ass. I'm giving you the negative side of this, but it's also been some of the shit that I've personally experienced. So don't bend your rules and go out and think that you're just being good to someone. Oh, this is a good buddy of mine. They came in, they're helping us out and putting some money in the door. So I'm going to hook them up too. Dude, I've done that countless times. And every time I did it, it was a fucking disaster.
Every time.
And like you said, going back to Dairy Queen or McDonald's, or mom used to say, hey, you go into the grocery store and you ask them to slice a pound of deli ham. You can't grab the ham and say, hey man, I'll be back in 2 weeks to pay that off. It just doesn't work that way. So why, as a small business owner, are we willing to put up with that shit? That's the big question.
No, we shouldn't at all.
No, we shouldn't. So, I mean, in your experience, besides having someone like Bill who was kind of behind you saying, don't you fucking do that ever or else, like what has been the triggers of the things that you've seen that's been like, oh, okay, now I understand why and let me stay away from that?
I mean, Ben Newman calls it standard over feelings. And that's really kind of stuck out to me. John, one of my prior business coaches, always said that. But it just doesn't matter. There's no way to actually scale your company and have an emotional impulse every single transaction. So a good example of that would be like, I used to do favors and used to do special needs per customers. And it got to the point that even like to this day, sometimes habitually, people will say, well, how are we doing that, John? I'm like, well, what's the process? And so like, we're having to retrain our brains that like, no, I'm literally on board with this. I refuse to deviate from this. Yes, I did sell this project, but this project runs its course the way the business operates, like period.
Yeah.
There's no special treatment. Now the special treatment's whatever our service is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the special treatment, not a unique thing per individual transaction, because
Sure.
then it's the team doesn't know how to react or respond to it. It's no longer a process.
Yeah. So the special treatment is the process, right? And I like that a lot. And here's why. When you create the system or process, you can also begin to eliminate the inefficiencies, right? So the special treatment is you drop your car off to the professional, and we're going to get it done in a very professional manner. It's going to be a time-driven manner because we want to get this thing out as fast as we can, while still maintaining a certain level of quality that we've established here at this location or within this culture of the business we built. So, I mean, that right there kind of ties it all together if you're asking me.
Yep.
Yeah. And like, look, man, coming from the custom car audio business that I did for years, I was, especially when I first started, I was so hungry for any dollars that came in because I needed it to survive literally, that when someone came in with the wildest fucking craziest idea, hey, do you think before they even said it, yeah, I can do it, no problem, just give me $1,000 now and I'll bill you the rest later and I'll call you when it's done.
Yeah.
And then you go into the back and you start doing this project that you have no fucking clue whatsoever how to do it. You've never done it before. You're not an expert, and you're literally figuring this thing out each and every step of the way.
Yep.
That is not scalable, people.
No.
At all. You cannot say, hey, Joe Smith, I'm going to hire you to replace me doing this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about process development, because you got everything tied into your softwares, which we'll get into here in a minute. But like, what is a typical, like, how are you going in there and taking something that you've done and you do well, and how do you turn it into a process?
This took me a really long time, like, to understand, because like I would sit down and not actually be able to write anything. It was like downloading music, your brain goes blank, right? But there was, I think it was Doug Mitchell had a guest on one of his podcasts, and the guy was saying to write down what you do know as you do it each step. But then the next time you do your process, only do it based on the steps, not memory. Because the problem usually is there's like 5 steps missing through memory, and you just repeat that process until you can do it based on the steps. I'm still very slow at it because I'm not really great at actually drawing the processes. I can see them and I understand what it is, but it gets stuck in my head. So extracting it is very slow for me still, but that idea, or like very fundamentally that process, is kind of what I've tried to do. And I just whiteboard it on like a whiteboard app and try to map it out and then look for the problems. And I like the whiteboard apps though, because when you miss a step, you can just move it down and plug the new one in, versus hand drawing it out every time. And it's basically just squares everywhere, right?
Yeah, I think people overcomplicate the shit out of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right.
So then we put within the squares, I make comments. So it's like the generic term of what that step is. And then if it's got like, I don't know, maybe a training video or something like that, there'll be an attachment to the side of the card where it's a link to the video of whatever it is. So you have your very simple, like 3-minute view, and then it can get very complex as you dig into it. And that's where we're going now, is going more deep. We're going very deep on the processes themselves.
Yeah, that's cool. It was taught to me to always start from a 30,000 foot view and then start to get granular as you get in closer. So go from a 30,000 foot view to a 10,000 foot view, from 10,000 foot view to like a 500 foot view.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're and it also helps you when you have to explain a process to someone who's a higher level thinker, like a visionary, for instance, they're not going to want the detailed version of the steps. So, hey, let me give you the 30,000 foot view. These are the 5 things that need to happen every time we bring a vehicle in for a wrap. But you and I both know that in order to do a proper vehicle wrap, I mean, we're tearing apart the whole vehicle.
Yeah.
Right? Things coming apart. I mean, it's getting cleaned and things are getting polished up and shot, like the whole 9 yards. But we'd bore that person to death if we hit them with the granular data.
It would bore me to death because I'm a visionary. Like, that's my problem, is I'm a weirdo that has a high integrator score, but I'm actually just a visionary. And so it's very difficult for me to sit still and sit here and actually map this stuff out, but it's what is required currently.
Yeah. I think it also gives you a very unique perspective and opportunity to do the things that you do. And that's also shifted into the new company you've got right now, right? So before we talk about TORQ, which we'll dive into in a second, you had to get your systems and processes off of just a whiteboard and into some form of a software. So your team could use it. You can monitor it. You can look at the data points and actually make educated decisions on your business, not just like, oh, wow, I think we should. Decisions on the business. So what was that whole process like? How'd you go out there and find a solution? What'd you look for? And what was the build out period like to get everything in place?
Yeah, I mean, we tried them all. I've used Trello, Monday, HubSpot, Salesforce, Pipedrive. I really dug into all of them, and I liked little bits of every single one of them. And then we finally landed on GHL, and that was by accident. I was using it through somebody else, but it was just like, it's just like WordPress site in a way. Like the app itself is okay, but really the magic is in the build, right? And so they were all just shells. And so once I figured out it was just a shell, I was like, well, okay, well then naturally I'm just going to go get it myself, right? So I got it myself, and I started building it out, and I started understanding it, and then I started paying for courses to educate on how to do it. And then I met more people in my communities that I'm a part of, and linked up with one guy in Australia and paid a significant fee to be a part of a pretty private 2 or 3 month long course. We met weekly and just really got into like the nitty gritty of the logic of how to, not only have the processes, but it actually helped me more with my process building than anything because of the whiteboarding. Making sure that if a lead comes into your ecosystem, it's fine for nothing to occur with a lead, but at least it needs to meet a resolution. So why? Like, do you have the data as to why it didn't meet have any action? Were they 6 months worth of ghosting after 64 touch points? Like, what was it that caused the lead to either not sale, tell you to screw off, or whatever? And so now, for the most part, leads that come into our ecosystem, they aren't lost. Even just a generic phone call gets an opportunity created.
Yeah. So you're literally tracking everything that comes into the platform.
As much, and we're still perfecting like getting the data accurate, because that's a whole like third level deep skill of that process. But little things like, I know for a fact that I had 730 calls last month, and we missed 300, but out of those 300, 200 of them responded back to our text message. So we only had to call 100 back.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So you got the structure of the CRM in place. You're looking at all this data, and you're now also connecting your GHL, which is Go High Level, to Monday.com. And the Monday side of things is where you're doing all of your task management when a project comes in.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people try to do too much with one piece of software quite often. So they'll look at something like Go High Level and say, okay, cool. Oh, but it's got this task management piece in there. I'll just do it there. I'm like, no, it's not built for that. It's not meant for that. No. And at this point in time, it's like, okay, well, I need this and I need this. And a lot of people's brains want to explode at this point. And I get it. It's a lot. Because just like Go High Level is a super powerful tool, and you can go crazy in there building things out. Monday's the same thing, right? So now you've got to become an expert inside of Go High Level, which takes months, if not years, to perfect. You've got to become an expert inside of Monday, again, months, if not years, to perfect and get really good at and efficient. And now we have to figure out how we tie these two platforms together so the data accurately goes back and forth in real time.
Yeah.
What can go wrong? Really, what can go wrong?
Everything.
Right. So, but what I'm saying here is you are willing to go in and put the work in to do the shit that most people aren't willing to go do.
Yes.
And in so you have created a platform that made your existing locations. And if I recall right now, you've got 3 active locations for your wraps and tints and stuff.
Yep.
So now you're efficient with these, and you've got a massive piece of structure and backbone in the company, which is your software stack that you're running. Right? Without your existing software, if we pulled that out of your company right now, you'd be like, what in the fuck just happened?
I would fall over for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Right. So this now leads to you, because you're involved and you're always speaking to other people within the industry. People start reaching out to you and saying, hey, I love what you're doing. Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that, how the brand TORQ itself came together and what you're doing with that and how you're helping other small business owners.
Yeah. I mean, so me and a guy named Brad Rapone, we've been in contact for a long time. And I happen to, Brad's like a very quiet person in the industry. I think he probably operates with a higher revenue per employee than most people, period, like in the industries. And he's always seeking to improve, super positive mindset. And, I kind of shared with him the software, and he was running his own, and he was building his out. I was building mine out. And then he called me one day. He's like, "Hey, are you bringing this to market for the industry?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, then I won't." Like, that's the kind of person he is, right? And I was like, "Well, my plan was actually just to team up with you anyway, because I didn't feel like doing it by myself." And so I was like, I think I have a really good angle on the retail side. You're further than I am on the national fleet side. Like, he's 3 times larger than I am and does a lot of fleet work nationally. And I was like, I think together we could actually really divide and conquer really well. And so, unfortunately, we're both visionaries, but we're also not afraid to do the work and grind it out to do the integrator side of stuff. So we were very alike in that regard.
Yeah.
And so we went to town. This was like July of last year. By August, we had actual like foundations for both. And then we picked up about 20 customers that we just reached out in our personal network, and Dan Workman's one of them. And we showed it to them. They're like, "This looks really cool. This is way better than what I have. You'll help me?" Like, we're like, "Yes, we'll set it up for you." And they're like, "Okay." So we've had 20. We've only lost one customer out of that initial 20. No, 2. And so that's 8 months, and that's not too bad. Like, most people have high churn in any kind of digital agency because they don't have good support. But we're not perfect. We're still learning. But we were very upfront at first that we don't know what we don't know, but we will make sure to do whatever it takes to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so we actually ended up hiring one of our customers, Matt, who is an integrator, thinks like an engineer, and is an absolute unit. And an absolute unit at stuff. He had no clue what Integramat was or Make. He kind of knew about Zapier. I showed him some stuff and just spun a vision. And next thing you know, he's got this new Monday build that I like. He was the foundation of the Monday build that we have now, because I was still using Trello. And Trello is great, but it doesn't give you good data reporting. So if you want KPI reports, Trello is not what you want to use unless you're creating even more work to get those. But Monday is an Excel spreadsheet, basically. So that's where I wanted to go. He had a pretty good one. And then I was like, "Can it do this?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Can it do this?" And then I kind of showed him like how to make them connect on the back end. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, "Check this out." I was like, "How much do you want for this?" He's like, "No, you can have it." And we just ended up just partnering with him. And so he's in alignment with us. He sees the vision. He's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he's doubled his business since using it. Not entirely just because of using our software, but just in general, like Mondays and Fridays, we have coaching calls for an hour, and they can ask us business questions, whatever. I mean, not to say we know everything, but like, we literally just give value to people constantly. So 2 hours a week, we dedicate entirely to people that want to come onto that call. And I think that's what's attributed so far to the retention that we have.
Yeah.
People know how to use it.
That's awesome. So it's like, hey, you got the founders of the company in here that have actually created this tool, who also use it in their own businesses, by the way. And we're going to come in here and work through any problems you may have. And it may be related to the software that we helped you implement and we've sold to you. And it may not be. Whatever here is kind of on the table, and we're going to help you work through it. I think that's a massive value add, way more so than most businesses would ever do or consider.
Yeah, I took that from Chris Bearden and Sean of FlowChat.
Okay.
And obviously they're the cold DM guys, but their systems inside of their business, twice a week they get on a call and beat up how like people's pitches and how they're approaching affiliate marketing and stuff. And I thought that was really cool. It's a lot of value because they personally get on those calls.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's definitely a separator. So what does it look like when you set this initial version of TORQ up, right? Because like you had this thing functional in another account, which, a Go High level account of your own that was operational, using it in your business. Was there a transition period? Did you have to go hire someone to go do all the movement and cloning of it?
We did it ourselves, and it was hard. Like I remember, like the first 3 clients that we onboarded, they had Brad's branding and like emails and stuff on accident. Because it's actually hard to. It's one thing to build something for yourself, but to build something that's also based on global values that is generic to where you have to link those global values to where if I wanted Step It Up to come in, I just fill in a form and then it throws in all your branding and then now it's yours. It was very complex at first and it took a lot of work. It took us like a couple months actually to really find everything because we weren't setting it up with that in mind at first. That's we're not naturally gifted in that sector.
Sure.
We've gotten good at it now, but it was a good 3-month transition to really clean up the snapshot and get it to where now we can onboard somebody in like 2 weeks. And that includes training, you know. Really, we can have the account live in 2 days.
Right. So who's the ideal client for the platform that you guys have? And also, this is just a high level piece of it, right? Because you're transparent about it here. I'm not blowing anything up for you, I hope. But TORQ is your version of high level. Like you guys have a white label.
And that's anybody that's asked us because we are branding it as our own thing. But at the end of the day, we're doing essentially what I've told people is we're doing codeless app development. Essentially, there's good WordPress sites and there's bad WordPress sites, and we're just taking instead of trying to pre-code everything ourselves, we're just trying to master what the functions are instead. So the platform itself is great, but can we drive this to very specific things to where it operates how we want it to in our industry and or your industry. And really functionality wise, they're all the same. We just have to map out what they are. And we got pretty good at it. So we took the strengths of high level, which is the communications, review management, and automations, right? That like there's so much more in there too, your funnels and all that cool stuff. But really just, for $300 a month, just missing a call and getting an auto text and then it deciding whether it's a customer or a lead and sending out a message based on that and all these cool things to where it's not sending the same message every time you miss a call too. Brad actually sold a $8,000 sale by missing a phone call. So that pays for, 2-3 years worth of subscription. So, like I said, I missed 300 phone calls, but 200 of those went straight to text message and somebody just picks it back up and texts instead. So it's a huge, huge gain in that regard. But yeah, we just focus on how can we perfect this? We're taking like the Apple approach in a way. We're not inventing anything. We're just trying to perfect it.
Yeah.
And so, obviously we have certain things where we're at the mercy of like the rate in which they develop things. So like right now we're waiting on estimates and invoicing. And that's a huge thing that can be added, especially for like the retail facing stuff, because they don't need QuickBooks to name all the customers and stuff. With Wraps you do, but for the tint, PPF, and ceramic coating, it can just be a quick transaction. It's just, I want your money, right? As far as reporting on the accounting side goes. And, so that's the only downside to it. But I think it's a whole new model that's coming out, the whole SaaSpreneur, people developing these huge things. And instead of them having to focus on what they do best, which is programming. We focus on the marketing and like utilizing the tools in our own way.
Yeah.
And it's been good.
Yeah. That's powerful there. It's like let the dev team and the programmers go out there and create the structure and the bones of the tool, and then we're just going to massage and tweak that structure and bones so it fits our customer best.
Because if not, it's almost impossible for them to actually create a great product for everything.
Yeah, you can't.
It's actually impossible. And so I think that's like certain programs like Monday and Trello have been doing that for a long time. There's huge corporations that use Monday, ClickUp, and Trello. I mean, Trello, to my opinion, is pretty layman's, but like there's huge organizations that use Trello to a very high degree. Software companies. And so they took that approach, but for customer communications, basically. And so, like you were saying, there's no software that can rule them all. So we took the front end and the back end, which is your sales processes and your follow-up and ascension in high level. And then project management, I feel like ClickUp and Monday are probably the best, period.
Yeah.
They're almost identical with a 10% difference probably. And so then the problem with using multiple softwares is transitioning all the data. So do I have to re-enter all these customer details and all this stuff? And what if it's a new car? Like, all these things, like you have to kind of consider those things. So we had to learn a third software on the back end, which is Make, and understand, how to create those values and triggers and parsing information correctly so that you don't spam your own project management tool or customer.
Yeah, so let's backtrack a second before we talk about the next phase of it here. But give a quick background on what Make is and some of the competitors that operate like Make.
Yeah, so Zapier is the most common one, and it's basically more friendly to the end user. But essentially, it's how I've always said it's like a satellite or a outer space storage unit in a way. And so like you have this software has information, and then it sends it up to this storage unit. And then it says, okay, it's kind of like matching a Excel spreadsheet. It's like this column matches this column. And then you have to connect all those units to saying that full name is actually this, whatever it's described as on the second software. And then you say, this is what I want to go there. And then you can tell it in which order, how you want it delivered, where to place it. And it takes a lot of time and thought, because if you do it wrong, it's really bad.
Yeah, you can really screw some things up if you're because this is the integration piece that is connecting Go High Level to Monday.com and Monday.com to Go High Level.
Correct.
So if you screw up the integration, you could have bad data on one and or both platforms.
Yeah. And or sending the wrong customer messages that their car's ready to pick up, or, hey, your warranty is, coming up, you should replace your hood, little things like that. So it requires a lot of attention to detail. But once it's all front loaded work, once it's set up, it's not too bad to repeat it.
Yeah. So here's my question, right? You guys have set it up clearly for your exact business, which is the vehicle wrap and PPF business, ceramic coating, tint. When someone comes into you with a similar service-based business, right? What kind of work is required on the back end for you to make the adjustments, updates, upgrades, and tweaks so it fits their company? And how long does it typically take?
So we're doing that for a permit company right now. And we estimated for his company, he already had his systems in place. And we estimated about 50 to 60 man hours on that one. Because he has like 6 softwares he's using, and it's all in place. We're just consolidating it. I would say for a full unique build, you're probably 100 plus hours, if not more, depending on the end user. Because just like any form of these things, you're actually going to find out that their systems aren't actually completely rounded out. So now you're going to be building, with that individual, hey, there's a missing link here. What do you want to do about it? So we're actually building their systems and processes within their own entity. So it depends on the company a little bit. Yeah. But Trent, the guy we're doing the permit one, he's a process nerd. Like he's got 500 videos on training manual or for Trainual. So like it's there. He just wants to consolidate it down. And he was spending like $1,000 a month on Zapier alone.
Wow.
But yeah, we've got a couple of unique cases. We're trying to be careful on going out to too many other industries yet. Not that we want to slow our growth, but more that we want to make sure we deliver.
Yeah, sure.
And so rather than just grabbing somebody's money and running, like we would rather take the first year to really perfect it. And if we do have fail points, then at least we can react to them quickly because we didn't overstretch ourselves.
Yeah. If you take on 3, 4, 5 industries for new build outs at the same time, it eats up the bandwidth of your current team.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do, we have a somewhat of a strategy that came up to mind while we were at the convention. Is we had a franchise reach out to us, and frankly, we only have to do one build 500 times copied over.
Right.
So we want to go into very specific sectors next versus unique every time. We're okay with the unique builds, but we're going to be selective in which ones we do. We'd rather try to relearn like the painting industry or the epoxy floor industry. And overall, the foundation that we have can already be used for just about any of those type of companies, because a lot of our calculations and math that we do for how we estimate things are based on square foot. So if we can just stick in that world, epoxy floor coating is super easy for us to understand.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, and from previous conversations you and I have, and this is a big pain point that I see with a lot of clients who I work with, is they don't have any formal estimating tool, system, software in place to crank out accurate numbers to quote a client quickly.
Yep.
And a lot of it's like, this is kind of how I feel today. So they just kind of shoot you a number.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the homeboy hookup again. They just take $500 off of that. He's a good dude. Right. And that's not a way to run a business. And it's also not scalable because you can't train someone to replace you on the estimating side of things when you kick out a different number every time you quote someone.
Yep.
Right. So what you're saying here, right, and I know this because you and I've had conversations on it, is that the estimating and quoting tool is also built into Monday for you.
Yeah, we took global metrics. So that spreadsheet that I had to do for all those years that Bill kicked my ass on came in handy. And we basically input, like, Bill and I had a rule that we would be no less than certain gross profit margin. Mm-hmm. Well, inflation and all that stuff. So I've recently raised that gross profit margin. And so I could just go in on the back end, and we have a metrics section that the team can't see, but I can, or management can. And it's, what's your gross profit margin per job is going to be? What is your salary for your designer? What is your salary for your print technician? What is the salary for your installer or commission for the installer? And it accounts all of your fixed costs that you should already know, right? Because you're paying your bills. We've even gone as far as putting your overhead per square foot if you wanted to calculate what your rent, utilities, and everything is. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to try to get a net instead of a gross. I didn't like that personally for me, so I just go for gross. But we take that and then we throw in like a very simplified spreadsheet. You plug in what materials you're going to use. We're building a database slowly as like trailers, for example. If you said I want a 20-foot trailer, mm-hmm. I've got a drop down on that tool that says that calls for 98 linear feet of film. And that's this many square feet. So I can plug that into it, and then I can see what the price would be for print only, design only, print and design, mm-hmm. print, design, and install. Mm-hmm. Like, it gives us multiple options, but it's factoring in the employee's rate at an estimated time that was the average that we're currently drawing based on prior data.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So this is the front end when you're building a quote, mm-hmm. right? So now let's go to the back end of business where, okay, now I've got to do job costing. What did this job actually cost me? How is the system tracking that, and how accurate are the numbers at this point?
Yep. So we just talked about the global values in regards to people. The only flaw in the system itself is actually using it, meaning your staff has to be on board. But I think this is any company. The KPIs are only as good as the data input.
Yeah.
So this is the new problem that we're experiencing as we really put these complex systems into a company. Even my own, I switched to Monday in January, and so I'm not going to go on a tangent, but we're only now just like getting to where we can actually pull those numbers to a high degree. Yeah. It'll probably take another 2 months for it to be like, okay, you have to do this or you're let go, like, because this is mandatory. But each step has its own individual positions and criteria / workflow. And the problem with Monday or spreadsheets is the vertical columns are all unique, but when you send it to the next job board, it has to be the same data and or it deletes it, right? Because it's not going to match. So we bypassed that and we created like a bird's nest view or eagle eye view of the whole company. It's an overview board. And so when a card goes from admin for my industry, when it goes from admin to graphics, all the data that the admin was gathering disappears. Graphics doesn't need to see that.
Yeah.
Well, we used Make to send that information somewhere else. So we didn't lose it, but then now we establish new items in graphics. Graphics handles its thing. My designer clocks in on the job. All he has to do is hit play or manual enter. As a business owner, it'll show you the time in red whenever somebody manual entry, so that you know that was a manual entry. But they're due to clock in and clock out on the job. So if it took them an hour, I know that cost me $25. It sends that up to the overhead view. Moves to print work. The print technician says, hey, I'm using this material and it's 220 square feet. And, we had no errors in printing. So it moved it to the next step. It sent all that information up to the overhead view, and it deleted all that data. Moves to the table work guy. He clocks in on the job on an iPad, cuts it down. It takes him 39 minutes. Cool. He costs $19 an hour. So it's like, $13 or something like that towards that project. Sends that up to overhead. And so by the time the job meets completed, all of the individual positions have clocked in, and actually now you have time management to where you can start to build what is your average time on table to cut down a wrap kit, to where instead of me walking in the back saying like, why is nothing getting done? It's like, actually, we've averaged 3 cars a day.
Yeah.
Like, it actually helps the employees. It's not really micromanaging. It starts to take the emotion out of it. Like, they can either prove or disprove that they've worked today just by doing the process.
Right. They follow the process, click the buttons when they're supposed to, then everyone's going to have the data, which means communication becomes more effective because you no longer have to go to the back and say, hey, Joe, what have you been doing all day? Or have you guys done anything? Like I said, you're over here standing, twiddling your thumbs in the corner. Meanwhile, if you went and looked at the data, homeboy got 3 or 4 cars worth of stuff done.
Yeah. So it's definitely beneficial. At first, I kind of had like the negative look on it, like, man, I'm really micromanaging this, but it's really not. And then we also, being that I am a technician, I designed, by design, we made it in such a way that's very easy for the technician, because you've worked with technicians out in the field. If it's not simple, it's not getting done.
Yeah, especially on the technology side of things.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to simplify it because, listen, man, they got a lot of stuff going on, especially working with tools. They're concerned about the welfare of themselves, concerned about the welfare of the vehicle itself, especially in the automotive industry. And they've got 1,000 other things and choices that they need to do and make and be attentive to in order to deliver a good finished product of whatever it is that they're installing. Right. So if you're now going to add some more complexity to it with some fancy software system that some nerd built, like, these guys are going to shut down and say, yeah, fuck you, boss. Like, I'm over here to wrap the vehicles, not press the buttons on the iPad or the computer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. We're constantly thinking of ways to make it simpler. We've even created like forms. Brad, he's not there to look over the wrap. So he's actually got a form that goes to the installer. And all it is they're going to take pictures of the completed work anyway. Well, it tells them it's a checklist. It tells them exactly which pictures to take. I want the VIN, the front, the side. Give me 2 up close pictures of seams. I want to see 2 corners, and I want to see both hinges on the back door. Those are all your problem areas. And guess what? He can look at this thing. It's like, sweet. He gets the email when it's completed. The customer signed off on the vehicle upon pickup, and everybody's happy.
Yeah. So that's the quality control without having to be there, micromanaging for quality control. Yeah. Love it. I love it. What's the next step with TORQ? What are you guys looking to do?
So basically our next big play is just to get it in the hands of a lot more wrap. The industry, unfortunately, is very focused on the artistic side or the technical side.
Sure.
And so we have to have growth mindset people in order for it to work. So alignment wise, we're currently proving whether that's true. I think there's definitely people out in the industry right now that are looking to become better, and there's a movement to being better business owners rather than just installers. So we're definitely going to focus on the wrap industry first and not get like shiny object syndrome to other industries too heavily. I think the next play would be to go into 2 other industries, which will probably be home services, epoxy coating, flooring for sure is a big target of ours. And then, because they're high revenue, and then possibly painting businesses. Because all the estimating tools and stuff like that we have already could just be slightly modified. And I think we can provide a lot of value to them. I think very long term, we would eventually get into where we'd possibly maybe become like an eMyth or a EOS implementer and be full service.
Yeah.
But that's probably 5 years down the road. We just want to focus on the main thing.
Yep.
And so, I'm even working myself right now to the point where I'm trying to grow to where I operate more in TORQ and less in design it over the next year to 2 years. And that way I get a lot more fulfillment out of, somebody like Dan Workman reaching out saying, hey man, like doubled our business. Like, that's just cool. Like, I mean, you get that a lot, right? With helping people, like it truly motivates you to work even harder.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like when I wrap a car, it's really cool. I love seeing brands and like 20 vehicles out on the fleet and stuff, but like, and it does make an impact into their business because they're going to generate more revenue, but it's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. It's awesome, man. I think it's a real powerful, cool thing you're doing. It's very needed. And there's also very few people that I personally know who have the ability to kind of tie all the pieces together and make it a reality. I've heard a lot of people talk a big game about it, and I've never seen good results delivered. Right. But I think what you guys have done here, how you've rolled it out into your own companies first to test it, make sure it works. Oh, cool. This actually does work. Now let me go implement this into someone else's company and help them build.
I think that's the biggest difference. At ISA, we got a lot of not necessarily pushback, but like that was a common rebuttal. Well, I have Corebridge, or I have Shopbox, and I have this, and I have that. I'm like, well, that's cool. I've used Shopbox. Do you have it set up yet? And they're like, no. I was like, how long have you had it? They're like, 4
years.
Yeah. I'm like, so the problem is you have these really techie people that are actually building an awesome product. It's like, this product is awesome, but you have to set it up.
Yep.
This is already set up for you. So it's a done for you solution to where we actually just plug in some things and you're good to go.
Yeah. Big difference.
That's the main difference. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I fought that battle myself. You go out there, you get the fancy software tool for a couple $100 a month, $1,000 a month. And they deliver it to you with a couple of onboarding training videos and say, hey, here's this white labeled solution. Have at it, go figure it out. And that's the part where most people say, wait a second, I've got to go and become a nerd who implements this, but I also still have to run a business, worry about payroll and hiring people and finishing projects for customers and all the other stuff that's included with it.
Yeah. And I'm pretty good at it. It took me 8 months.
Yeah. It's awesome.
So,
man, I appreciate you coming in here today and dropping some game and talking some nerd with me too.
Yeah. That's fun.
Awesome. Yeah. So if someone wants to learn more about TORQ or maybe get a vehicle route from you, where they connect with you?
On Instagram, my personal account is I am not Brent, and it's KNOTT Brent, BRENT. Mm-hmm. And then Facebook, just Brent Knott, BRENT, KNOTT.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate you coming in here today and dropping some value. And I hope some people reach out to you because I know you got some good stuff that's working on the back end there.
Sweet. Appreciate it.
Yep. Later.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.